Well, you just heard it. My next guest startling the racing world as a rookie in NASCAR Cup competition, tying down the Great American Race this past February. We're talking about Austin Cindric, who joins me here inside the wind tunnel. All right, Austin, it was easy, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure they ever are, but certainly a perfect day in a lot of ways. Not just to win the race, but to do it on the captain's birthday. It's pretty special to get the two car finally in victory lane at the Daytona 500. Pretty special to be able to do my part.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that that was the first trip to Daytona Victory Lane by the number two car that's been part of the captain's stable in Cup competition. The other side to your career is the one that fascinates me, and I'll confess right here. I remember distinctly the day walking down pit road at an IndyCar event, and your dad coming up to me and showing me some Polaroid pictures and saying, look what I just bought for Austin. And it was a white Bandolero car. And I said, well, what's the number? He said, I told the kid that he's got to show me what he's got before I spend any money on decals. A hell of a way to start your career, my friend.
Yeah, that is very accurate. It took a very long time for me to get any color on that Bandolero, and rightfully so. It was the body panels that U.S. Legends sold were all white, so I never had a painted car for quite some time because we were replacing plenty of body panels when I was figuring out this whole racing thing.
Figuring out this whole racing thing, that seems to be one of the keystones to everything that you've done in your career. From bandoleros and legends cars, we're racing in the IndyCar ladder system, global rallycross, which we'll get to in a minute. It just seems if it had four wheels, Austin Cindric was going to take a flyer at it. How, with all of that education, starting with your road racing school, how did it all lead you to a career in NASCAR, and why?
Yeah, I think for me, I've had enough perspective throughout my life, and from my parents or friends that I grew up with, or teammates, co-drivers, to know that it's hard to make it as a race car driver, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, for better or for worse. And my opinion is beggars can't be choosy. There's a lot of guys that only want to be an IndyCar driver, only want to be a NASCAR driver, and and that's fine if that's what you're passionate about. But for me, it's about the thrill of driving. So I don't want to limit myself to one category. So if I had an opportunity to go, like you said, we go run an open wheel car or a rallycross car, or run the 24 hours of Daytona, those are all the things that I'll go do this, I'll go do that. And for a while, it's probably hard to tell what my focus was, and it wasn't really till I got tied up with Ford Racing and IMSA, in with Multimatic in the Continental Tire Series, which is now Michelin Pilot Challenge. And really from there, I've been with Ford ever since, and that was 2015. So from racing Mustangs and IMSA, to a couple one-off opportunities in ARCA and in the truck series, and leading into more one-off opportunities, leading into a full season in trucks, and obviously snowballing into where I'm at now. So I think it's that relationship with Ford that's kind of been a real cornerstone of my progression through stock cars.
All right, I want to go all the way back because you come from a very rich racing heritage. We all know about your grandfather, the late great Jim Truman, and winning the Indianapolis 500 with Bobby Rahal. We all know about your dad as the president of Team Penske. But tell me the story about a little conversation you had with your music teacher that tried to, as I understand it, discourage you from pursuing a path in motorsports. What was that all about?
Well, I think what you're referencing is that I was actually kind of good at playing the tuba, and they wanted me to keep pursuing that because it was a good way to get into college and have a scholarship and so on. And there was a lot of conflicts that led to in my racing career compared to playing the tuba. So if that's what you're referencing, then yeah,
It is.
I had plenty of teachers that were very apprehensive about how much school I was missing for sure.
Look, I can understand the clarinet, the saxophone, the piano, the guitar, but my God, the tuba?
Well, here's the deal, and I think personality wise, the instrument probably makes sense for me. But when in fifth grade, when you had the opportunity to go do band class, they're like, oh, these are all the instruments, and they'll have like some upperclassmen, like Jack will play the saxophone for you, Tom will play the trumpet, and this is the drums and percussion and the flute and everything else, and like, which one do you like? You kind of have a field day of every instrument and what they are and what you wanted to play. And of course, about half of us all wanted to play the trumpet, and the band teacher's like, well, you can't just have 20 trumpet players, like that's not a band. And it's like nobody wanted to play anything but the trumpet or the saxophone or the clarinet, and they're like, we need some bass, and like, does anybody want to play this? I'm like, I'll do it. Like, I'll try it out. Like, I've never been afraid of being different. And so I obviously kind of went down that path and really enjoyed it. And I'm a big fan of live music. And I think a lot of that's because of doing band class stuff, but no shame in it also, by the way. So, but I did that from, 5th grade all the way up until I graduated high school in 12th grade.
Well, I must confess, I hope you heard from some of your band peers after your rendition last year in the cockpit of the car, singing Back Home Again in Indiana. Dude, don't quit your day job, all right?
I did not hear from any of them after singing Back Home Again, but I heard from them after winning the Daytona 500. I did get a text from my band teacher, whose number I didn't have. He got it from somewhere, and Mr. Davis texted me, and congratulations, whatever else, and kind of reminisced a little bit. And I told him on race day morning of the Daytona 500, I listened to Miles Davis, and he always loves Miles, or I guess it was Lester Young.
Oh, yeah.
Love showing us different types of stuff. So it's pretty cool to catch up.
Austin, before I move forward and talk about the effect upon a rookie winning the biggest race in NASCAR, you said you've never been afraid to do or try anything. Did that come into play when you decided to become an X-Games competitor in global rallycross?
Well, the crazy thing about that is that I did X-Games, and that was my first rallycross race. And that was a really cool experience on a couple of levels. Obviously, they don't do the rallycross and X-Games anymore, unfortunately. But I did get the bronze medal. It was a really cool experience. But when my brother and I were growing up, especially my older brothers, like way into like skateboarding, that was the like early 2000s. Like Tony Hawk was really big. All those guys, Bam Margera and Ryan Schechter and these guys, and my brother really loved it. And so naturally, being the little brother, I also liked what he liked. And so we followed the X Games. We had all the Tony Hawk video games. And when I got to be an X Games athlete as a driver, I got an athlete support person. Usually for the other guys, it's their managers or whoever. So my older brother was my athlete support. So he got to go to the athlete lounge and hang out with all these guys. But after the race was over, and it was held at Circuit of the Americas, the whole facility had all the skate ramps and everything. All the skate ramps were on the front straightaway, and the bike stuff was in the infield, and the rallycross stuff was, in the, I think it was 11, 10, and 12 section of the racetrack. Anyway, when the race was over, they had like a jumbotron, and they had people come interview the podium finishers. Obviously, I got the bronze medal, but they didn't allow any of the team people in because it was just such a fast show. And there was a couple PR people from the series that kind of came in and did everything. And I'm kind of just standing by the car. They give us a guitar. I got a medal, which was also a belt buckle, which is really cool. I don't have it in my office, or I'd show you. But I turn around and my brother's standing right behind me. He jumped like 3 fences, and like he was the only person who wasn't part of the series or working the event that like he just got over and like high-fived me like, Tanner, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I want to come see you. I'm like, I guess it's that easy. So it was cool to share that together. And he's been a big supporter of mine. He lives in Norway now, and he figures out every weekend on how to watch the races. I talked to him Victory Lane after winning the 500, and he's got a bunch of buddies, and they go party and go crazy whenever I win races. So it's a lot of fun. It's cool to share that relationship.
I'm not at all surprised by that story because, as I said, it doesn't seem as if any sort of hindrance is going to affect the Cindric family's pursuit of what they're going after. Conventional wisdom would say, being the second youngest and in your rookie season, to win the biggest race of the year could be either a good thing or a negative thing, and yet you back it up with a pole position at the next race in California. But what caught my ear and my attention, Austin, was the conversation that you had with your team just before the start of the race, when you outlined that yet again, this is an opportunity for me to acquire data points to hone my racecraft. It doesn't seem as if winning, even though it punches your ticket into the playoffs, is going to deter you from one of the most important, I think, things that you've used in your career, and that's to gather knowledge to make you better.
Yeah, I mean, that, in my opinion, that's my job, especially with all the differences with the next gen car and, being against a whole new different group of competitors, working with new people and new team members. There's a lot of newness for me this season. And to be able to make a lot of that normal, even like I'll use Vegas for an example, go out for practice and the car's loose. And, it's not that it's, physical to drive, one lap, it's physical to drive 400 miles. But, after 2 laps, my right butt cheek is like locked up. It's on fire because my body, like the muscle memory for this car is not, I'm not used to that. So like my body doesn't know really where it is. And you're trying to figure out and understand like, okay, what's actually, when am I actually in danger? Your body, reacts to those things, subconsciously. And, perfect example, like I was a little bit loose, but like the car isn't as yawed out anymore as some of the old cars. So you don't have the same sensation. So you're looking for things to key off of. And even things like that are going to be new for a lot of guys, throughout the year. And, add on top of that, all of the things that are going to be new for me, just being a rookie in the Cup Series. So I'm definitely no stranger. And I certainly understand there's going to be a process for me that's going to be different than my competition as far as, being a rookie. But it does, winning the first race of the year, whether it's Daytona 500 or not, obviously it's the best race to win 100%, but it gives us the flexibility as a race team to be aggressive when we need to be, whether if that's to get points and playoff points to help us in the postseason, or to be patient in the learning process and try and understand and really focus on those small details and learn them to where I have enough data points, like you mentioned before, to really, come to some conclusions and put our team in the right direction.
The other refreshing thing, Austin, is while we live in this world that is surrounded by handlers and marketing experts and PR types that want to make sure that their athlete gets the messaging out, you're not afraid to not necessarily wear your emotions on your sleeve, but allow yourself to distill all of that messaging through a commitment to honesty. We saw it, I think of the one case was at Bristol, where first they're booing you, then they're cheering you. How important is it to you to never lose sight of the fact that Austin Cindric is his own man?
I think life's more complicated any other way. I don't know about you, but I appreciate you saying that. I mean, that's how I try and lead my personal life, my professional life. I try not to make them, me much different in either of them. I don't, there's some people who do things differently. And for me, I love driving race cars and I'm competitive, and I think everyone can understand that and appreciate that in this space. But at the same time, I feel like I'm honest with those around me and I'm honest with myself. I'm probably honest with myself more than anything else. So, and I think that's helped me in my racing career. I usually don't have to have somebody tell me what I've done wrong. I've probably already lectured myself about doing it wrong. But nonetheless, I appreciate that because I really enjoy it that way, because I don't have to really think about anything else, and it makes me focusing on my job certainly a lot easier if I'm just being myself every day.
You still got a tuba?
I do. Haven't played it in quite a while.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to that. Maybe the next time you visit, you can break it out and you can give us a little rendition of oom pa. Listen, it's been a real treat, personal pleasure for me, because I had a very deep-seated friendship with your late grandfather, and I will never forget, that moment in Victory Lane when, as he was, losing his battle with cancer, he put his arm on the back of my neck to hold himself erect to congratulate Bobby when Bobby turned to him and said, "Jim, this one's for you." Best wishes for the 2022 campaign. And I'm sure we're going to gather together here inside the wind tunnel often, not only this year, but in years to come. Austin, have a great day. And thanks so much for joining me.
Awesome, Jack. Appreciate you having me.